The culture will tell you this: wait till the time is right to have kids. Be in that house. Make sure you're healthy. Make sure you had plenty of time to recover from the last kid. Make sure that you have hit this specific goal in your career or education. Society will always tell you to wait. And even sometimes practical ideas in our own minds will tell us to wait to have kids. But should we? First, we have to recognize, well, what means does a person of faith, a Catholic, have to prevent having children? Contraception is off the table. Not only is it duly unhealthy for a woman in her body, and we'll talk about that actually in just a little bit here, but in fact, contraception goes against a fundamental idea about marriage between two people. The church teaches that every act of lovemaking between a husband and a wife must be unitive and procreative. So that means it must be for the good of the spouses to unite them, but also be open to new life and the children that could come from that relationship. Remember earlier, we were talking about the very first command that God gave to Adam and Eve, to us humans, was to be fruitful and multiply. Now, when the unitive or procreative dimension of marriage is destroyed, just one, not even necessarily both, it actually seriously impacts the two persons in that marriage. Now, with this in mind, the church has talked in its document, Humanae Vitae, which I encourage every married or engaged couple to read and truly understand. And it talks about essentially grave reasons that a couple might still consider delaying having a child. Now, ultimately, these grave reasons you and I are culpable before God for. It shouldn't be, hey, I wanted to pay off my new car or boat. It shouldn't be, well, I really wanted to buy that new house or work a little longer in this new job. Grave reasons, although different from couple to couple, could be more serious things, such as someone has lost their job. For example, the serious illness of specifically the woman, where having children might be very, very difficult. But I can also tell you, I've had loved ones who have been told not to have more children, to have their tubes tied. And at the same time, they've been told that if they were to have a child, it would be life-threatening, life-ending. I can think of one person in my life in particular who proceeded to have 2 more children, and she's just fine. The ways of God and the ways of the world are radically different. So what means do we have then to delay or prevent having children? Well, a lot of people call it Catholic contraception. And I think that they call it that because we tend to have a contraceptive attitude at times about utilizing natural family planning. Natural family planning is a great gift, and you can work with fertility care practitioners not only to avoid having pregnancy if there's a grave reason to, but to actually conceive having a baby, to conceive a child. And I have to tell you, this was my story. With 2 autoimmune diseases and various health issues, I was able to conceive a child. Truly, it was a miracle. I received anointing of the sick 3 weeks before conceiving a baby. I just have to put it that way. But I've also been working for quite a while now with incredible NAPRO doctors who help treat underlying causes that impact a woman's fertility. So natural family planning and NAPRO technologies can be used to help delay having children. But what's a proper reason? You know, this specific case that I've been given here, because you want to be in a home and not necessarily an apartment. I'm in an apartment and having a baby. People always say, well, don't you need another bedroom for a baby? No, not necessarily. Don't you need 2 jobs for a baby? No, not necessarily. There's a saying that often goes, there's no good time to get married, buy a house, or have a child. That's true. There will never be the perfect timing. But there's also another saying that says, with every child that's born, a loaf of bread comes underneath its arm. Children are a gift from God, and who are we to absolutely deny that through contraception or even through a contraceptive attitude utilizing natural family planning? I'm not saying that you can't ever use NFP. There are great elements to natural family planning. But what I am saying is often we say, you know what, I'm going to get married. This is great. Let's go. But we're going to practice NFP for the first 5 years of our marriage. The first 2 years, the first 6 months, the first year. Now, there can be legitimate reasons at times to do that. But us wanting to just settle into each other, wait to buy the house, isn't necessarily a serious reason. Think grave reason. You are culpable before God for that grave reason. And this is why Pope Paul VI in Humanae Vitae does leave it in the hands of couples. We have to discern those grave reasons. And I think that we need to remember to not just think about it, to pray about it, to offer our bodies, our motherhood and fatherhood before God in these instances. There's never a, quote, right time to have a baby. And I will say, if the desire to have a child is on your heart, it's important to recognize, hey, that's natural. It's a natural next step in marriage. And that if that desire is there and you're feeling even slightly uneasy about waiting to have a child, your conscience is kicking in. Let your conscience, your prayer life, and actually reading Humanae Vitae be the guide to help you understand when is and is not the right time to have a child. But really prayerfully consider, am I delaying having a child for material purposes that are just, or for material purposes that are actually quite silly? Because many women in Italy, Denmark, and even now in the United States and in many other places in the world, years later look back and you want to know what they regret? They regret that they didn't have more children. We're even seeing this from some of the aging movie stars who have died in recent years. Don't let that be your story.